noble and wise, long abandoned. Vandami Sangha Mahamadare Devoyavidi Sangha Ichevameyam Pavipujayakam Vitujayam Vandayata Visangatam. This salutation should be made to that which is worthy. Om-yam Vayayam Manasapupadava through the hearts of salutation. Mahon Durega Sadabhava Siddhya. May all obstacles disappear. Idhanata gato loke upanno arahan samma sambuddho. One who knows things as they are, has come into this world, and he is an Arahant, a perfectly enlightened being. Namo Ajahn Sukhito Pasamiko Parinipamiko Sambodhajami Sugata Parevismo. His way has made known Mayantam Dhammān Sutava Evam Janama. Having heard the teaching, we know this. Jati pi dukkha, birth is dukkha. Jara pi dukkha, aging is dukkha. Maranam pi dukkha, and death is dukkha. Soka parideva dukkha domana supaya sapi dukkha. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are dukkha. Apiye sampayogo dukkha. Association with the disliked is dukkha. Piyehi vipayogo dukkha. Separation from the light is dukkha. Yam bicham nalabhati tam dukkha. Not attaining one's wishes is dukkha. Sankitena panchupadana khandha dukkha. The five focuses of identity are dukkha. Seyatidam Rupupadana khandho, attachment to form. Vedanupadana khandho, attachment to feeling. Samyupadana khandho, attachment to perception. Sankharupadana khandho, attachment to formations. Vijnanopadana khandho, attachment to consciousness. Yesam parinyaya, for the complete understanding of this. Dhammārāma so Bhagava, the Blessed One in his lifetime. Evam bahulam savake vineti, frequently instructed his disciples in just this way. Evam bhagavachapanna sabhagavato savakesu anusas bahula pavatati. In addition, he further instructed Rupam aniccham, Form is impermanent. Vedana anicca. Feeling is Sanya anicca. Perception is impermanent. Sankhara anicca. Mental formations are impermanent. Vijnana anicca. Sense consciousness is impermanent. Rupam anatta. Form is not self. Vedana anatta. Feeling is not self. Sanya anatta. Perception is not self. Sankhara anatta. Vijnana anatta. Sense consciousness is not self. Sabbe sankhara anicca. All conditions are transient. Sabbe dhamma anattati. There is no self in the created or the uncreated. He mayam hotina mahajatiya jara maranena. All of us are bound by birth, aging, and death. Soke paridewe dukke domanasse upayase. By sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Dukhotina dukkha pareta. Bound by dukkha and obstructed by dukkha. Apevana mimasa kevala sadukha kantasa takiriyayasa. Let us all aspire to complete freedom from suffering. We skip to 14. Shira parinibhutam pitam bhagavantam saranam gata. The Blessed One who long ago attained parinibbana is our refuge. Brahman cha sangham. So too are the Dhamma and the Sangha. Tasam bhagavato sasanam yatha sakti yatha balam manasi karoma anupati pajama. Attentively we follow the pathway of the Blessed One with all of our mindfulness and strength. Sasano pati pati. Made in the cultivation Imasa kevala sadukha kandhasa antakiriyaya samvatatu. Lead us to the end of every kind of suffering. 52. Handamaya Maria Dhanagatayo Bhannamase Kyasa Sadha Tathagate Achala Supatitita Silanjaya Sakalayanam Maria Kandam Pasamsitam. One whose faith in the Tathagata is unshaken and established well, whose virtue is beautiful, the noble ones enjoy and praise. Sanghe pasado yasati puju buddham jatasanam sajivitam, whose trust is in the Sangha, who sees things rightly as they are. It is said that not in vain, and undiluted is their life. Tasma sadhancha silancha prasadam dhammapasanam anuyunjeta medavi saram buddhana sasanam. To virtue and to faith, to trust, to seeing truth, to these the wise devote themselves, the Buddha's teaching in their mind.
So we are coming together again, Sunday morning. My last day here where we're going to meet. So still some opportunity to practice together, talk and discuss Dhamma. So I thought it was yesterday the question that we can maybe talk about. Shall we hear again the question? Is it...
The question is, what technique of meditation is being practiced and taught in retreats conducted by senior monks when conducting such retreats?
Okay. So the question mentions technique and retreats and such terms, and I think I would like to pick up the issue, but maybe with a bit of different terms. So as it is the case, and maybe we heard some things about it already, that the whole approach is of our tradition and teachers and so forth is somewhat different in terms of whether emphasizing technique in practice or whether emphasizing the form of a retreat. So then I think I will approach the matter of practice in general, what kind of practice and so forth. Maybe a first little point, but it's a very big point actually, is the question, why do we practice? And this is a question and a matter that is very useful, very important to come back to frequently. Yeah, not just get into some kind of a routine of having some kind of a spiritual activity or practice or technique, and that's it. Thinking, oh, we are doing the right thing. We are good Buddhists or good whatever practitioners. So one way of considering the question of why do we practice is a very simple answer, or we practice because we care. Yes, why do we practice? We practice because we care. We care about what? We care about many things, particularly about our own life. We want to live a good life, we want to live a happy life, we want to find some fulfillment in life. It is likely to be the case that also we care for our family, relatives, friends, community, maybe our nation, maybe our fellow human beings, and maybe even the whole world and the whole world of sentient beings to some degree. So to come back to the point that we care about something, care about some things, and hopefully that's the case. And here we reach a point where we find that care for one's life is not just about maintenance of the ordinary way of living and maintenance of good health, good environment, some comfort, some pleasure, and so forth. But we try to look at the matter more thoroughly, more deeply. So another reason to practice is also, if we use also a word that sounds a bit similar, is the quality of, we can call it curiosity, or to put it in other terms, our sense of inquiry, interest to understand things, to get some clarity about our own life, about our existence, about matters of life and the world in general. And we may recognize that we are not yet that clear about what's going on with us, with this life, with this existence. And so human beings have been investigating and researching, trying to understand reality, trying to understand many aspects of the world and reality for many thousands of years. This is also one kind of a motivation. Another kind of motivation related, we can use also a word with a C, so we got three, but it can be called like a sense of concern or a worry or even a fear of the fact that there are dangers in life, dangers in this world. We can be hurt very easily. We can lose our well-being, our fortune, our good conditions, whether to whatever degree we experience them, in many ways, and even quite quickly and quite surprisingly and even easily, one can say. And so it brings us to consider in what way can we gain more sense of security or safety or freedom from dangers and freedom from the aspect of fear, worry, anxiety, which is also quite fundamental in human existence, human mind, human heart, human existence. So these kind of reasons to actually practice, to actually take interest and give time and some commitment and dedication to practice. I just gave some ideas about it, but actually the point is that we keep on reflecting and inquiring what's the meaning of it for ourselves. What would be the motivation, what actually in general motivating us in our life to do things. And the case of the Buddha actually was pretty much the same case. Not yet being a Buddha, the Buddha recognized his own lack of clarity and understanding regarding questions of life and existence and happiness and suffering. Also, he recognized his own, or there was the quality of care for his own welfare, his own wish for finding maybe the highest fulfillment, highest attainment or achievement or goals in life, and also recognizing the condition of being bound yet by all kinds of possibilities for suffering, the truth of the condition of sickness, of aging, of death, of separation from what one likes, of association or encountering what one doesn't like, and so forth. And so the Buddha decided to live the very comfortable and even luxurious life that he was born into, and embarking on a quest, on a path to try to understand, to try to realize, to trying to rectify whatever is not yet fully developed and fully established well in his own mind and heart. So we can say one very important attitude or principle for the practice of the Dhamma is to really bring it to what really matters for us and what really what is the reality of our life, the reality of what we experience, the reality of what we would wish for, the reality of what kind of issues, problems we have, what kind of aspirations or inspirations we have, and in the sense that we are keeping on learning and keeping on maybe adapting and adjusting and developing. So it's not also getting into some kind of a fixed ideas and that's it. We got a nice theory, some nice ideas, and we keep on repeating them, but always having this quality of looking at things, observing, reflecting, being sensitive, and so forth. And so in regard to that, the meditation practice doesn't need to have much of a technical approach, many kinds of instructions and many kinds of technical steps, but we can have some very simple practice, we can call, and then gradually learning what are the principles, what are the ingredients there, which are very natural. They're a part of us, a part of life. So it's like working with nature and working with natural resources. It's a nice term that Lumpo Liem likes to use. Looking at ourselves as human beings as a natural resource or like a natural phenomena. So we already have some intelligence. I think we can all agree with that. Human beings, we are born with this faculty of intelligence, and usually we develop it through our early stages of life. We learn many things through our ability to see causes and effects. How when we feel what to do, for example, when we feel hungry. Yeah, it's not obvious. Maybe we feel hungry and we have no idea what to do about it. But then we learn that this kind of feeling means a wish to can be alleviated by some kind of a food eating. So, and these are very basic things that obviously animals also figure them out, and they're more or less on the level of instincts. But there's many more things that we learn about how to live life in a way of seeking more well-being, various kinds of well-being, and how to solve various kinds of problems or difficulties or discomforts and so forth from the very time we are born and babies. And also we observe others and we learn what do they do, and we learn to communicate. We learn many kinds of things with the faculty of intelligence that we have, where we can see connections between many kinds of aspects, phenomena, and we learn how to work with it, how to use different things for different purposes, and it gets more and more sophisticated the longer we grow, from a baby to a child to a grown-up, teenager, grown-up, and so forth. And if we consider the world these days, the level of intelligence of an average human being, sorting out how to use all kinds of technologies and studying in school and high school and college and university, years and years of it takes quite a exercising one's brain, intellect. So we have this faculty of intelligence. Another faculty that we have, which is very natural, is the faculty of mindfulness, of being able to attend, to be aware, to be present with our experience to some degree. Because if we didn't have it, we would be completely lost. Actually, it's either talking about intelligence or mindfulness. Both are very basic qualities for a human being, and one can say other sentient beings is just the degree of the development or the quality of these faculties varied quite a bit. So in order to know actually what's going on in kind of within our experience, we need to have some degree of awareness, of attentiveness, and we can relate it to the quality that we call in the language of the Dhamma mindfulness or sati. And then we have a third quality, very fundamental for human life, human being, is the quality of, we can call it will, or will, power of volition, which leads us to actually act or make certain efforts. So when we recognize some kind of a situation by our mindfulness and intelligence, then usually we respond to it in all kinds of ways. And this kind of response is begins by some kind of intention or will arising, and then we are acting. Maybe we move our body in such and such a way, or we begin to talk, to communicate in one way or another, and or even we begin some lines or trains of thought in relation to some situation in order to come to an understanding or decision, or working on communication or whatever. So explaining this is like explaining that the building blocks of practice and principles of practice, whether we call it meditation or not meditation, we can also use the word meditation, they're actually built from natural phenomena, natural resources that we already have as human beings. We're already using them. We've been using them since the day we were born, little by little, and developing them. And then now when we are coming to this Dhamma or this spiritual path, then we actually we have to rely on these same fundamental qualities. We don't have to look for things very far away from us, and actually if we will begin to look too far, then we will miss the point. But the way we're going to use now these faculties is the important matter. So one important aspect of it is that we are going to develop them in a way that they work more for the sake of Dhamma. So now we're giving maybe some new directions for how are we going to use our intelligence, our mindfulness, our efforts or willpower that we have. And this will be the major change or a task in what we call Dhamma practice. And so in some way these faculties can be developed in terms of their, can say, inner quality or strengths, but more important is just the way we, for what purpose, in what way are we going to use them. So here one important aspect of the meditation practice is that we are going to use these natural resources, natural faculties, to begin to observe or learn our inner world. So since we were born, we were very busy looking outside, with all the sense impressions and all the activities that we were up to, whether playing or looking for this and that purpose of wanting to eat or to do something, many kinds of things that we were doing since early stages of life, and then always experiencing the outside world and being attentive to that in various ways. But as for our internal world, what's going on there actually regarding the emotions, the thinking, the views, the ideas, the what we may call the perceptions and so forth, or even knowing this body more from a direct observing of it, these kind of things we didn't do much, very likely. So when we begin, when we take the meditation practice, then we actually take interest in knowing more ourselves, not all the time in relation to one activity or another, not all the time in relation to one experience that we are engaging in, but rather in a way where we are settling ourselves quite quietly and more in a still kind of way, and looking more closely, more clearly into body and mind as they are, without engaging them in other kind of activities and occupations. But in order to do that, usually we need to begin by training ourselves or training our faculty of knowing, which usually we call the mind, to be able to observe. So we are generally used to either being very active mentally and think a lot and be quite engaged, and to actually having a more strengthening this faculty of observing, reflecting, is something that we need to give some effort, some training. And so the basic theme of meditation practice is usually to begin by some way of settling the activity of the mind, settling body and mind, so that there's more stability there, more calm there, and then this natural resource or natural faculty of being able to being aware and observant can be a tool that we can use we can use for a benefit. And as said, we already have it to some degree, but often it is not so, that faculty or that tool is not yet well trained. So then we have usually quite a restless kind of a way of giving attention to things, or we are good in giving attention to whatever is catching our interest or giving us some pleasure, but to observe internally, or to observe phenomena without it being stimulating us, this is something that we have to train. It's not yet easy for us, or kind of a natural for us. And here usually the recommended, we can call it a technique or method, and indeed it doesn't need to be a very particular one, but by first taking a kind of a convenient, comfortable posture. So from ancient time the crossed-legged posture was highly recommended because it is a very good posture for settling body and mind, but we could also do it sitting in another way, on a chair, or with some aids of cushions or stool or chair or something, and also can add the comment that we can also do a practice by walking and so forth. But suppose we are explaining like the most classic way of developing some meditation practice, then we want to settle body and mind, and a good sitting posture is beneficial for that. And then to take the practice of being aware of what is called body awareness. Body awareness, which can be kind of divided into two types. One type is awareness of the breath, as we probably heard about, anapanasati, taking the breath as an object of mindfulness, awareness, attention, or together or separate from awareness of the body in general. So we can be aware of how the sitting posture feels like in whatever part of the body, or even scanning or surveying the body from part to part. And it doesn't need to be some kind of a very particular technique, but we can kind of explore it and use it in many various ways. But the point here is that we develop a type of attention and mindfulness that is not engaged externally, kind of looking outwardly with the eyes or the ears and so forth. And also it is a way of attending and observing that is looking at experience directly, which means not thinking about things, how is it, and having all kinds of ideas about it, theories about it, commentaries about it, comments about it, but rather having a simple direct awareness and attention to how does it feel to breathe in and out, how does the body feels breathing in and breathing out, or how does the body feels in the different parts of the body, what kind of sensations, what kind of feelings and sensations are there. But we could do it also in other ways. We could take another object that can help us to settle body and mind. So for example, we can take some contemplation and bring it in and gradually settle our attention into that. Or for example, we can take, as it is used in the tradition, just a simple meditation word like Buddha and using the word to kind of direct our thoughts into one simple word and one simple concept, we can call it, and maybe add to it some perception of the meaning of the word, Buddha, Buddho, but not now elaborating on it, just making the point that we can use different tools in order to bring some stillness and stable and settled quality into body and mind, with the qualities of mindfulness, attention, with the quality of intelligence. What kind of intelligence? The intelligence where we are knowing what kind of task we were taking. We are observing whether we are actually doing the task, and what kind of quality of activity, of application we are putting in there, and what kind of results coming in. For example, we are taking the task of observing the in and out breathing, and then we're trying to be attentive to that. But then various kinds of difficulties come up, and obstacles come up, and hindrances comes up. And then it's by having this intelligence that we are actually not only aware, but we're also knowing what's going on there, whether we're doing what we were taking on as a task, and what to do when it becomes difficult, or when we begin to have all kinds of hindrances, and what kind of and suppose that we are keeping on the task, then what comes from it? How is it going to develop? Suppose that there is more clarity, more stillness, the breath become more subtle. Yeah, we keep on observing, we keep on looking at phenomena, we keep on looking at what kind of effort would be appropriate. For example, we may begin to observe and with a lot of determination, but then we realize that there's too much of a tension there comes up from desire, for example. Then we may need to change a bit our attitude or the way that we apply our effort. So these kind of matters are matters of intelligence, to actually see what are we doing, and then what kind of results are there, how does the experience change, and then adjusting and adapting and continuing, not like a automatic kind of practice, but all the time there is a quality of evaluation, of investigation there, which is actually very similar to our many other our kind of daily activities. Even just walking from one spot in Delhi to another, we have to observe how do we walk, where do we walk, turning left, right, whether we cross a street. So we need to be attentive in one way, we need to be intelligent to know where we're going and what is the right path there, or maybe at one point we need to ask somebody because we never walked to that place before, or we need to look at the map, or we need to to understand that, we took the wrong turn and now we have to change something. So there's always the quality of attention, the quality of intelligence, and the quality of effort to do one effort or another, and adjusting one's efforts. So one important aspect of caring for one's life, one's quality of life, is to know better this person, this being. And as saying yesterday, there are many afflictions in body, afflictions in the world, but the actual experience of affliction or experience of dukkha is not there. It's within this heart and mind. And if we're going to see more clearly how external phenomena affects this person within, then we have to learn to observe more how it works there, what's going on there, what is the arising of a good mood, a bad mood, good thinking, bad thinking, useful reflection, or afflictive kind of thinking and reflection on things. And this kind of learning doesn't need so many techniques, but it does need some simple approach and a way of learning how to bring the mind into a more clear and steady state, and then learn to begin to contemplate, to observe, to reflect on things, and which can be done in many kinds of ways. I would say let's kind of put things in a very practical way. Then, suppose we are a more dedicated practitioner, then I would say it's good to have morning practice and evening practice. And even whoever been associated with the Vipassana, Goenka, then I know that there's a standard of a morning practice, evening practice, and that's actually a very excellent kind of a standard. And that is within the fact that we remember that practice of Dhamma and the life of a practitioner is not about these type of conventions where we say, oh, now I'm practicing and later I do something else, but still having like some kind of a structure for practice can be extremely helpful. And but then if we remember that this time, kind of special time, dedicated time that we can take, and it's good if we take in our daily life, it has to be the kind of practice that is not some kind of just a duty that we do, or a kind of a technical procedure that we follow, but let it be something that we keep on making use of and developing with this quality of care, with the quality of curiosity or inquiring mind, and with the quality of a concern or recognizing the drawbacks, the danger, of life that is lacking in spiritual development, and we can call it also lacking in refuge, just living like one who doesn't have a direction or a deeper meaning, purpose, refuge in one's life. And then if we talk about morning practice, it is a wonderful thing to begin the day not immediately jumping into all kinds of activities and engagements, but taking, let's say, if we can, 1 hour, which can be a part of it, can be a little bit of chanting, which is like a kind of a giving some resonance to the qualities of Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, or some wise reflections from the Buddha, or some feelings of devotion towards what is worthy of respect and devotion, and toward kind of principles and values and aims that are more noble and more meaningful than just living an ordinary life and keeping it keeping it pretty much ordinary without any kind of a higher meaning and higher purpose. So to remind ourselves of some of these things daily, it's an excellent practice to begin the day, and we can do it in many kinds of ways. If anyone will ask for formulas, then it's not quite the approach that we take. But for example, using a chanting book is a way, and rather than doing the same thing every day, also we can come to learn. So the chanting book is having quite a lot of material there, and it's much nicer to every day consider, what shall we take today, and gradually, within time, to be more familiar and to choose things kind of as it feels, or as it manifests as relevant for the day, or interesting, or just like alternating from one thing to another. And if we do it for a long time, then gradually we make a certain connection with these teachings, with the qualities of Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and with many aspects of the Dhamma. And then, of course, we can take some time for a quiet meditation, quiet reflection, and to begin with, it can always be some kind of a settling the mind, so we're not scattered about thinking, or we're not. We first bring the mind into a state that is as much as we can, that is clear, that is wakeful. And we can even go along with that for a whole session until we feel more sense of brightness and clarity and lightness within us, and then happily get up or pay respect to Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and get up and go on into our daily duties and activities. But also we can do some of the practice of a settled and clear mind, and then bring up some reflection. And the reflection can be done in so many ways. We can consider the activities of the day and what kind of particular attitudes we would like to bring into our daily life, such as metta, friendliness, patience, consideration for other, right speech, right communication, many kinds of things. And also, if we do these reflections regularly, and we may also recognize particular areas that we would like to be more mindful, more skillful, to develop more skill there, then in the morning time we can kind of remind ourselves of that, and give some directions or some reminders to us. Or we can end the morning session by spreading some good wishes for in whatever ways we can develop it in a particular way that relates to our sphere of family, relatives, community, or in a many kinds of creative ways. For example, if at a particular time we know that there's a certain conflict going on, human beings are harming each other or quarreling and fighting with each other, then we can take some time to spread the wishes for peace, for harmony, for resolving of various problems and issues among human beings. We can take many kinds of, if we have some relative who is going through a disease, maybe in hospital, we can dedicate some time. We can, when we bring the Dhamma into the reality that we live in, then we have like a real material to work with for the developing of various qualities, wholesome qualities. So rather than keeping things very abstract or very technical, we can look at the material of life around us, the reality of us, the issues that are there, and bring them in by reflecting on them and by recognizing what kind of a quality or a type of practice is relevant to that. Sometimes it can be the quality of equanimity. We know that something is really disturbing us, is really kind of shaking our moods and our emotions. Then we can try to take that issue and really look at it in a way that we can be more at balance. We can look at it with more wisdom and more even kind of mind, rather than being very shaken or out of balance in regard to it. Also to mention, if we have a morning time, sometimes reading a little bit, so one can do some chanting, one can do some reading of even a few lines of Dhamma. It can be a piece of the Buddha's words, such as Dhammapada, for example. It can be opening a book of Ajahn Chah, which every page there usually is full of a powerful kind of a Dhamma, and having that as a little inspiration or a reminder, recollection for the day, and then we can sit and let this Dhamma a bit sink into us by making the mind more quiet, and let the mind quiet down, and maybe take that these words as a reflection. And doing these kinds of practices is indeed not much of a technical approach, but it's only when we do it regularly and frequently, then it begins to actually work for us. And maybe indeed in a lot of the base of it is just learning how to, one can say, enjoy the time of being alone, being quiet, not always be kind of addicted to activity, to social environments, and to sending one's attention into outside, and always stimulating one's attention with things. So appreciating quietude and solitude is already getting closer to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and finding ways to give it quality, give it content, good kind of content, and so we actually feel the benefit of it, feel the value of it. This is something that we can develop little by little, and I believe that some of us already have it somehow as a natural tendency. Or often these days people can come to be interested in the Dhamma, again, because they care for themselves and they notice that life becomes so overloaded, so busy and overloaded, and what can we do about it? The most sensible thing to do is to slow down a bit, to give some balance in a way of having some quiet time, having like knowing how to slow down, knowing how to stop activity and do something else. But this is maybe some kind of a good idea that we come across, but then to actually make use of it or develop it takes a practice, takes a skill. So I think we're already getting close to 11, and maybe that's enough for the morning, and then we have the afternoon for maybe discussion and so forth. Yeah.